skydiving my way.
I've never been good with heights. Like, if there's a solid 10-foot drop in sight, my knees already start doing this weird wobbling thing. It's not even the fear of falling, per se, it's the helpless feeling of standing on the edge, knowing the ground below is way too far to feel safe. My friends know this about me, which is why they've spent years poking fun at me whenever we passed by roller coasters, hiking trails with cliffs, or even those rickety mall escalators that seem unnecessarily steep. Anyway, this story kicks off about 6 months ago. I was at my friend Kyle's birthday party, a backyard barbecue with way too many hot dogs and even more beer. Somewhere around the third plate of nachos, Kyle starts making a big announcement. He's doing one of those bucket list trips for his 30th birthday, skydiving in a nearby town. Now, if you've never had a friend group like mine, let me explain something. They're relentless. If you even hint at being uncomfortable with something, they'll turn it into a campaign to make you do it. The second Kyle mentioned the skydiving trip, all eyes turned to me. "Oh no," I said, holding up my hands. "I'm not doing it, nope. You all can enjoy plummeting toward the earth without me." Of course, Kyle wasn't having it. "Come on, man, it's the one thing I've always wanted to do. You can't chicken out. What kind of friend would you be?" That's where they got me. Kyle wasn't just any friend, he was my best friend. He'd been there through some of my worst moments, like when I lost my job a couple of years back and ended up crashing on his couch for 2 months. I owed him. So, I did what any rational, self-respecting adult would do in that situation. I panicked and started bargaining. "What if I just come along but don't jump? I'll take pictures or something." Kyle smirked. "Nope, you're going up there with me, or you're not coming at all." I sighed. "Fine, but I'm blaming you if I pass out." And just like that, I was signed up for something I'd avoided my entire life. The days leading up to the jump were a blur of Googling, how dangerous is skydiving, really? And trying not to spiral into full-blown anxiety. I mean, logically, I knew it was safe. Statistically speaking, I was more likely to choke on a hot dog at another one of Kyle's parties than to have something go wrong during the jump. But tell that to my brain at 2 a.m. when I couldn't sleep. Finally, the big day arrived. The skydiving center was this small, no-frills place out in the countryside. When we pulled up, I was struck by how casual it all felt. People in jumpsuits were wandering around like they were about to play a round of golf, not hurl themselves out of a plane. A peppy instructor named Tina gave us a quick rundown of the safety procedures. I tried to listen, but the second she said the phrase, "controlled freefall," my stomach twisted like a pretzel. Kyle, of course, was buzzing with excitement. "Dude, this is going to be epic," he said, clapping me on the back. I forced a smile, but I'm pretty sure it came out looking like a grimace. Then came the real kicker. We had to suit up. As I pulled on the jumpsuit, it hit me that this was actually happening. There was no turning back now. And yet, a small, quiet part of me started wondering if I'd regret it more if I didn't go through with it. But that's where I'll pause the story for now. Let me know if you want the next part. It's when things really start getting interesting. The moment I zipped up the jumpsuit, I felt like I was in one of those action movies where the rookie hero gets reluctantly dragged into a dangerous mission. Except there was no epic soundtrack, just the constant hum of propeller planes overhead and my heart pounding loud enough to compete. Kyle, on the other hand, looked like a kid on Christmas morning. He was already joking with our tandem instructors, who, by the way, had way too much confidence in my ability to not freak out mid-air. My instructor, a guy named Jake with a calm surfer dude vibe, gave me a thumbs up as he tightened my harness. "You'll be fine, man. First jumps are always the best." "First?" I muttered. "There's no second." Jake just laughed. Soon, they herded us toward the plane. Now, I don't know if you've ever been inside a small aircraft, but let me tell you, it's claustrophobic. It was nothing like the commercial flights I was used to. This was more like being crammed into a metal box with wings and a tiny door that screamed, "Bad decisions happen here." Kyle and I were squeezed into the middle of a row, with Jake strapped to me at the back. As the plane began taxiing down the runway, I tried to focus on the mechanical whir of the engine instead of the terrifying fact that the ground was quickly disappearing beneath us. I glanced over at Kyle. He caught my eye and grinned. "How are you holding up?" "Fantastic," I deadpanned. "Couldn't be happier." "You'll thank me later." Doubtful. The higher we climbed, the smaller everything below us looked. What started as a patchwork quilt of fields and roads eventually became tiny squares and lines. It was oddly mesmerizing, until I remembered that I'd soon be seeing it while falling at terminal velocity. At 10,000 feet, Tina, the peppy instructor from earlier, started giving us final instructions. "All right, everyone, when it's your turn, don't hesitate. Just follow your tandem instructor's lead, keep your head back, and enjoy the ride." Enjoy? Yeah, right. Then the door slid open. And that's when I realized I'd made a terrible mistake. The rush of cold air hit me first, followed by the deafening roar of the wind. One by one, people started scooting toward the edge and disappearing into the sky. It was surreal, watching them vanish into the clouds as though they were being swallowed by the horizon. Kyle turned to me, his face glowing with excitement. "See you down there," he shouted, before throwing himself out of the plane with his instructor. Now it was just me and Jake. "All right, buddy," Jake said, leaning in close. "Remember, I've got you. Just keep your head back, cross your arms over your chest, and we'll handle the rest." "I don't think I can do this," I blurted, gripping the edge of the doorframe like my life depended on it. "You already are," Jake replied with a grin. Before I could argue, we were moving. That's where I'll leave it for now. Trust me, you'll want to hear about what happened next. It's where everything flipped, both literally and metaphorically. Want me to keep going? There's no way to describe the moment you leave the safety of a plane except unnatural. Jake nudged me forward until my toes were hanging over the edge, and the wind was whipping so hard it felt like it was trying to peel the jumpsuit right off me. My brain was screaming, "Don't do it. This is insane." But my body was on autopilot, following Jake's cues. "Ready?" Jake shouted. "No," I yelled back. He laughed, and then we jumped. For half a second, my brain short-circuited. It was like time slowed down. There was no sound, no coherent thought, just the surreal sensation of weightlessness as the plane disappeared above me. Then reality kicked in, and I was plummeting toward the earth at over 100 miles per hour. And you know what? It wasn't terrifying. It was incredible. The rush of wind was so loud it drowned out every fear I'd been clinging to. I couldn't even process how high up we were because my senses were completely overwhelmed. All I could feel was the purest, most electrifying adrenaline I'd ever experienced. Jake tapped my shoulder, snapping me out of my daze. He motioned for me to stretch my arms out like a bird. I hesitated, but when I did, the sensation of flying hit me. For the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of the height, I was in it. Below us, the clouds parted, revealing the patchwork of fields and roads I'd been staring at earlier. Except now, it didn't look scary. It looked peaceful, like I was part of something much bigger than myself. I glanced at Jake, who gave me a thumbs up. "How you feeling, man?" he shouted over the wind. "Surprisingly, good," I yelled back. The freefall only lasted about 45 seconds, but it felt like forever. Then Jake pulled the parachute, and everything shifted. The violent rush of air gave way to calm silence as we slowed down. It was like floating in a dream. I could see for miles in every direction, fields, rivers, tiny dots that were probably cows. It hit me how small everything looked from up here, including all the things I'd spent years stressing about. "You did it," Jake said, breaking the quiet. "I did, didn't I?" I replied, still in disbelief. We glided for a while, Jake letting me steer the parachute a bit. He pointed out landmarks and even got me to laugh by cracking a joke about how I'd been gripping the plane door earlier like it owed me money. As we got closer to the ground, the reality of what I'd just done started sinking in. I'd faced my biggest fear and, against all odds, actually enjoyed it. When we landed, I stumbled a bit but managed to stay on my feet. Kyle was already there, cheering like I'd just won an Olympic medal. "Dude," he said, running over. "That was amazing, right?" I grinned, my adrenaline still buzzing. "You have no idea. And the weirdest part? I meant it. That jump didn't magically erase my fear of heights. I'm still not signing up for cliff diving anytime soon. But for the first time, I realized that fear doesn't have to own you. Sometimes, the scariest things are the ones that teach you the most about yourself. And yeah, Kyle still gives me grief about how pale I looked on the plane. But now I just laugh, because I know I've got a story that starts with me jumping out of a perfectly good airplane, and I'm pretty proud of that.
Did you like the story? Like it, subscribe, and see you in the next video.